Great afternoon. I wanted to put out this video because while there are a lot of videos out about diverticulitis of the sigmoid, colon, etc., what happened with my case was something that turned out to be very rare, less than 0.1% of the people will have this, and there's really not much literature out on this subject. So I'm just going to read you the first part of what I've found out on the net about this, and then tell you what happened in my case, what was the symptoms and the beginning misdiagnosis and what it turned out to be. So what it turned out to be was rectal diverticulitis. Now, I had never heard of that before, and you go to look it up and you're not going to find, you'll find more about diverticulum, which is, asymptomatic, but there's very little out there about rectal diverticulitis. So what I found on the net is that diverticular disease occurs in the colon with great frequency. However, rectal involvement is very rare, being estimated to occur in less than 0.1% of cases. So rectal diverticulum is interesting because of their rarity, with an estimated incidence again of less than 0.1%. And rectal diverticulum is distinct from those found in the sigmoid colon in that they have a wider mouth, are true diverticulum involving all layers of the bowel wall. They're also larger, measuring 2 to 3 centimeters. Complications associated with rectal diverticulum are also rectal stenosis, rectovesical fistula, rectovaginal fistula, and misdiagnosis of rectal mass or cancer. So one thing that they look at with this is cancer. Now, in my case, what happened was I went to the emergency room and they did a CT scan, and that, this is an easy read, it's diverticulitis. Okay. And so they did tests, and the surgeon came in and said I really had a ton of inflammation and things going on. But when he went in there to do the surgery, thinking that it was sigmoid diverticulitis, he found out that I had no diverticulitis there in the sigmoid colon at all, and that it was the very rare rectal diverticulitis with a fistula, anal vaginal fistula as well. So the presenting symptoms that I had were basically the same as a regular diverticulitis. A lot of lower quadrant pain, urinary pain. I was having low-grade fevers that were ongoing. And how it started in my case was all of a sudden I started presenting with just tons of very light mucus that would just come gushing out. I mean, just pools like kind of, if you blow your nose, that kind of, it wasn't a heavy mucus, it was more of that thin mucus, and just gushing out. And then again, the lower quadrant pain that was going on, and UTI that was going on, difficulty in urination, etc. So that's how it was presenting when my doctor sent me to the OR. To the emergency room, and they started doing tests. So they sent me home with heavy antibiotics because they thought it was a regular diverticulitis. And I took those and they didn't work. So I went back to the ER. They put me in the hospital again, 5 days of, IV fluid antibiotics, and then sent me home with very heavy antibiotics for another week. And that didn't work. So they sent me to the hospital the third time, and I was admitted and went in for surgery. And like I said, my surgeon found out when he went in that it wasn't anything that he thought it was going to be. And so what he said with this was that he went in, there was a lot of bleeding, they had to give extra blood, but it wasn't gushing. He just said everywhere you touched it, it would just bleed. And that part of the way down the rectum, that it was just hard like cement. He said I really had to chisel it out of there. And so that's what happens with that. And there's not enough tissue to reconnect things. I also had the vaginal rectal fistula that was happening. So those that don't know what that is, you start having fecal matter coming out of the vaginal area. When I went in, I said, I have I told them, I looked up and figured out what it was, a rectal vaginal fistula. They go, well, how do you figure that? I said, because I have fecal matter coming out of the vaginal area. Oh, okay. Enough said. Yeah, that works. So anyway, that's what presented. And then there was not enough tissue left to reconnect things. So they had to do a colonoscopy, they do a colon, an ostomy from the colon. Excuse me, I'm not with it today. So they did do that and fix the fistula area. They do the rectal cup. So you do have an ostomy bag like regular diverticulitis can have, but the rectal thing is a bit different. Now with the rectal diverticulitis, like they said, it includes all the walls, not just two. Like a sigmoid will have two walls. In the rectal diverticulitis, all of the walls are involved in that. So they say it's a true diverticulitis, okay? Whereas they call the other a pseudo because it's not all of the walls are engaged in that. So I just wanted to put it out there because there's nothing really out there about rectal diverticulitis. So what happened with that, like I said, he goes in and this can be a genetic thing. They're not really sure why. In fact, they just don't even know why sigmoid diverticulitis happens. But rectal, again, there's very little literature on it that's out there. But in the case of that, because it's so low down, there's very little tissue that's viable to reconnect, so they wind up having basically the colon ostomy. So that's what they did. So that's what I have now, is the ostomy. And one thing, like I said, they do check for is cancer. So we'll see. I haven't gotten my report back for that. But that is something that can present with the rectal diverticulitis as well. So mainly, I just wanted to put that information out here because I didn't find anything on YouTube with anybody that had the rectal diverticulitis. But like I said, when it started, I just started having flushing of a ton of very fluid mucus that was just gushing out anally. And then again, the fistula, having feces presenting through the vagina. Really not fun, either one of them. And then again, the lower quadrant pain and things like you get with regular sigmoid diverticulitis. So it does present the same as that when it comes to the pain issues and low-grade fever and all of that type of thing that happens. Now, I didn't have any of the nausea or that type of thing with it, but I did present with low-grade fever and the lower quadrant pain, extreme pain, UTI, and those other things that were going on, okay? So I just wanted to put that out there, that there is a thing called rectal diverticulitis, and it can present sometimes with cancer. That's something that they look at with it, but you can have the same presenting symptoms as regular diverticulitis, but it is something that is different. And again, they think that it can be a genetic thing, or it can be a breakdown, I guess, the tissues. So why it gets the part of the rectal is just like cement. I don't know. But I was very fortunate to have the surgeon that I had, because like I said, he went in and found out it was something absolutely, totally different than what he was prepared for. So I hope this is just put out some information for people that are going through something and thinking maybe it's the regular diverticulitis, but you can have a very rare incidence of rectal diverticulitis. So on that note, I'll leave that here, and hopefully that's helped somebody out there with some information that's not easily available anywhere on the net. I just didn't find anything. And trust me, I did as much research as I could find on it, on the condition, and they just said there's just very little in the books because it is a very rare thing that happens, but it can happen, obviously. If I'm sitting here going through it, it can happen. So I'll leave that here, but thanks for tuning in, and hopefully this has helped somebody out there to understand that there is another type of diverticulitis besides just the sigmoid.